Loving pranams, dear ones of God and Guru. Please be seated. Dear ones of God and Guru, that's how our beloved Guru Dev sees each one of you. I want you to know that. I want you to know that. And I wanted to come and welcome each one of you to this 2019 Self-Realization Fellowship Convocation. I'm not going to give a talk tonight, but I really just wanted to come and welcome you in person and to share with you the tremendous upliftment and divine joy that's focusing on this event from the higher realms. I feel that very much. So welcome to all of you. Those of you who are in this large hall, those of you who are in our second lecture hall downstairs, those of you who are participating via the live stream video, welcome, pranams. God and Guru bless you. This is truly a divine event. This is a sacred occasion every year. And every year, so many of you come back again to take part and to bathe and to recharge yourselves, to recharge your souls and your hearts and your discriminative faculties, body, mind, and soul, in that sustaining and rejuvenating vibration of the presence of God, presence of Gurus. This morning when I was meditating in our Guru shrine up on the third floor at Mother Center, I went there to pray for all of you and to ask his special blessings and I could feel that special joyous vibration of so many of you arriving, flying in from all over the world, 48 countries around the world. For this blessed week of spiritual upliftment. So flying in from around the world, and whether you came by plane or by car or by foot or by train or by bullock cart or by internet connection, I know you are all flying. And we'll continue to do so. You know, it was such a beautiful image that I felt that Guruji was putting out there and blessing all of you with, that your souls flying like from the darkness, from the dark night of material existence, drawn by that beacon of divine flame, that beacon of divine love and light that is Paramahansa Yogananda expressing through the World Convocation. And as we draw near to that light, as we draw into that light, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as it goes along, open your hearts. Let yourself receive. Let yourself be willing to receive what he wants to give to you. And when the end of the week comes, each one will be different. Each one will be transformed. You know, I said I wasn't going to give a talk tonight, but and I'll hold to that, but there is one thing I wanted to say, one thing that I wanted to start this convocation with, and that is this, that our world today is going through some difficult times, and how painful I know it is to any sensitive heart to feel the confusion, to feel the divisiveness, to feel the trouble and grasping and searching for meaning, for light, for security, for all of those things that we know are waiting for us in God. And how wonderful it is, how blessed each of you is that from this vast mass of humanity, that you have made the choice. You who are here, you who are participating remotely by video, that you have made the choice to set aside these days, to set aside this time to go to the source, to go to what is the real solution, the only lasting solution to those difficulties, to those problems, to that confusion. So I would urge you, use these days well. Use these days well. Step back from it. Step back from the world. Be on spiritual retreat to the degree that you're possibly able to. Look at this as a spiritual pilgrimage. And at the end of the week, you will find that you have become a vehicle. You have become a multiplier of that love, that light, that divine consciousness that the world is crying out for. Will you do that? Is that what we can look forward to? I'm coming back at the end of the week, and I look forward to seeing that in the faces. So in that consciousness, in that presence of God and Guru, let's now begin this convocation. Please sit upright and close your eyes. Feel in your hearts, feel in your Kutastha Christ Consciousness Center. Feel that living presence of God, that living presence of Gurus. And let our hearts, let our receptive consciousness be an opening for that divine vibration to flow, so that we can consecrate a sacred space for this convocation to take place. Let us invoke the presence of God and Gurus by praying together and feeling that as we invoke their presence, they are here in reality. Heavenly Father, Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswar, our Guru Dev Paramahansa Yogananda, saints of all religions, we bow to you all. O infinite beloved, illumine our hearts, fill us with your light, fill us with your love. Change our darkness to your light. Touch us but once, that we might change, that we might be transformed. Not only touch us, but embrace us. Wash over us, inundate us in the ocean of your love, in the ocean of your joy, in the ocean of your divine presence. Bless us, that we may be receptive, that we may be changed. And O divine beloved, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion. And may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om. Om. Shanti. Amen. With these words, with this invocation, the 2019 Self-Realization Fellowship Convocation now begins. feel that we've created that sacred space, that we've created a temple by that invocation. You know, Guruji loved this concept of a wallless temple. He talked about how the true communion with God, the true worship of God, is in that wallless temple of infinity. And yet, even in a physical expression, he brought that concept. He created that, what he called the wallless temple at the SRF Lake Shrine. And in this convocation, we have created a wallless temple. We have created, not only by all of you who have come here, but by those who are, for the first time, joining us by the streaming video from all around the world. Truly, this is a world convocation. That's what our Guru envisioned. That's what he wanted in these annual convocations. So as you participate in the various events, the classes, the meditations, the pilgrimage tours, the moments of sweet divine friendship and fellowship with your fellow attendees, fellow devotees, do one thing. Do one thing. Just keep bringing the heart, keep bringing the mind back to the altar of God's presence in this wallless temple. Whether you're going on the pilgrimage to Lake Shrine or Hollywood or Mother Center, whether you're here in the hotel, going to the classes, going to the meditation room, you are embraced. You are surrounded. You are blessed. Keep the heart, keep the mind, keep the consciousness at that holy altar. And by the end of the week, as I said, you will be changed. Receive that love. Receive it with your whole heart. Receive it with both your hands and give it. It's in giving that we receive. I can't say enough about how thrilled I am that all of you are here. And I want you to know that throughout the week, I will be following you. I'll be participating, as will many from a distance. My distance not quite so far, perhaps, but still, I will be with you, cheering you on, praying for you, rejoicing in the glimpses of light, the glimpses of love, the process of transformation that is going on. So God and Guru bless you all, my dear divine friends. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru.
Well, that was a royal start. A great beginning to the convocation, and we extend our welcome to everyone here, everyone downstairs, and as Brother says, everyone around the world. This is a great experiment this year with this live streaming. And for all of you who are watching or participating in distant places, you can partake in convocation this week. Yes, certainly with the classes that are live streamed, but also by just thinking about what's happening here in Los Angeles and trying a little bit to tune in with it. You know, our Guru said he is as close as our thoughts allow him to be. And so all of us here, all of us around the world, if we participate in this week thinking of the Guru, thinking of trying to feel his presence in a little deeper way. Maybe trying to meditate a little deeper, to read his teachings, to put ourselves in his presence. There's no telling what the outcome will be at the end of the week. This is Master's worldwide family that's participating, and it's very exciting to all of us. Well, tonight we have a great subject, the hidden love and joy of God. The hidden love and joy of God. And the explanation of the class that you'll read in your little pamphlets that you were given, it says, the hidden wonders of God's love and joy surround us and beckon to us in seemingly mundane and yet miraculous ways. They can take the form of a child at play, a sign on the street, a fellow worker's comment, or even plans gone awry. Paramahansa Yogananda said that yoga is the art of doing everything with the consciousness of God. And as we condition our mind to the realization of His immanence in little ways each day, we find naturally and effortlessly that He has become a tangible, loving presence in our life. You know, this is the purpose of yoga. The purpose of Master's teachings is to bring the presence of God more completely into our lives. In one way, this explains hidden love and joy of God in a very, what would you say? It's a little bit superficial. You know, things happen and we feel God's presence, so we think that Divine Mother is playing with us. Everyone has examples of these in our life, and even from the very beginning of coming on the path, you'll find that this happens to you. Things happen and you realize, oh, Divine Mother is helping me out, Master's helping me out. There's nothing wrong with that. You take the inspiration, don't forget these things, use them. But it's much deeper than that. Really, when you look at the hidden love and joy of God, you're talking about the purpose of life. You're talking about Master's teachings on the most profound level. I came across this recently, and Brother was talking about the difficulties that are out in the world today. This was a report that said that the people around the world are sadder, angrier, and more fearful than ever before. This was a Gallup poll, or a Gallup study that they did. It said, according to new figures, people are sadder, angrier, and more fearful than ever before. Analytics firm Gallup released its annual Global State of Emotions report, which revealed that these emotions were at record levels throughout 2018 for the second year in a row. Overall, the world is just as miserable as it was in 2017, which was the saddest year on record since they started collecting this data in 2006. Gallup interviewed 150,000 people in 140 countries and found that 25% of the respondents said that they experienced a lot of worry the day before the interview, while 33% said they were stressed. A further 25% experienced sadness and 22% were angry. Yeah, thanks, brother. That really makes us all feel real happy. But you see, Master says that there's a way to overcome this. There's a way to find happiness and to find security in this world that seems so crazy everywhere you look. This really is His message. This is His teaching that He brought to the West and to the world. You know, there's so much discussion on what the purpose of life is. Most people in the world have no idea. There was a cartoon I saw where a man was on his deathbed and he was surrounded by, I guess, his closest friends. And the man's last words were, gee, I wish I had bought more stuff. Now, most people today we find it funny because everyone realizes that's so ridiculous. You don't find real happiness in stuff. But I was reading something else where someone was saying that it's not material things that bring happiness, but relationships. People who spend time with others, thinking of others, working with others, building stronger relationships with those around them, they're more happy. And I would agree with that. I think Master would agree with that. But Master would also say, even that is not enough. That's not the purpose of life. Master says, why become helplessly involved in an endless panorama of events in order to discover that nothing in this world can ever make you happy? It's not possible. It's not possible that these little things or these different formulas for happiness, that they can give us the lasting happiness that yoga gives us. Well, we're talking about joy and love. And one of the great aspects of our Guru's teachings, he has such wisdom when he looks at subjects that we take for granted or we don't really understand. And he's able to drill down on those subjects and give us an explanation with clarity and with conviction that, you realize you're reading truth. He looks at love and he looks at joy. I wanted to read you a few thoughts that he had about them, because this is the subject tonight. How do we bring out this hidden love and joy of God? Master says, if you could feel even a particle of divine love, so great would be your joy, so overpowering, you could not contain it. He says, think deeply about what I'm telling you. The satisfaction of love is not in the feeling itself, but in the joy that feeling brings. Love gives joy. We love love because it gives us such intoxicating happiness. So love is not the ultimate. The ultimate is bliss. And Master explains that from India, that the purpose, what we're seeking, is Chidananda, the Sanskrit term meaning ever existing, ever conscious, ever new joy. That's what we want. That's what we are in essence. And he says this Chidananda that we're looking for as souls, which is what we are. We're a soul. The soul has its own individual expression of Chidananda that we have to learn to bring out. This is the expression, the essence of our being, Chidananda. He says all the divine emotions, love, compassion, courage, self-sacrifice, humility, would be meaningless without joy. Joy means exhilaration, an expression of the ultimate bliss. Again, here he takes a definition. What is joy? It's exhilaration, an expression of the ultimate bliss. He says that joy is really, it originates in the brain at the 1,000-petal lotus. He said the subtle center of God consciousness that the yogis call the 1,000-petal lotus. Yet the actual feeling of joy is experienced not in the head, but in the heart. From the divine seat of God consciousness in the brain, joy descends into the heart center and manifests there. That joy comes from God's bliss, the essential and ultimate attribute of spirit. And then he explains how we feel joy in life. Now, it's good to get this basics down, because when Master talks about these subjects, he dives into them so deeply. But he sets a foundation upon which we can understand why it is the goal that we're seeking. He said, though joy may be born in conjunction with certain outer conditions, it is not subject to conditions. It often manifests without any material cause. Sometimes you wake up in the morning walking on air with joy, and you don't know why. And when you sit in the silence of deep meditation, joy bubbles up from within, roused by no outer stimulus. We feel much happiness in the satisfaction of a desire. But in youth, we often feel in the heart a sudden happiness that comes as if from nowhere. Joy expresses itself under certain conditions, but is not created by those conditions. Thus, when someone receives $1,000 and exclaims, "Oh, how happy I am," the condition of having received $1,000 has merely served as a pickaxe, releasing a fountain of joy from the hidden reservoir of bliss within. Joy, we have this essence of joy within us. And so when we talk about this subject and talk about the different experiences where we're reminded of the joy, where maybe someone says you want $1,000 and we have that joyful expression, it's not enough. It's not enough. That's life. And why is it not enough? Guruji gives two reasons. One reason, as we're describing here, is that these things that we experience in life, they have a beginning and an end. There's a time when we feel joyful, and there's a time when we don't. And the second reason is that Guruji says that every joy in life is balanced by grief. It's the duality of the world we live in. No matter what we go through, if we experience it, something else happens. There's a story of that in the autobiography that you could easily miss. And this was when our guru, Paramahansa Yogananda, met his guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar. First time, they were in Benares. That touching scene where Master ran up to his feet, fell at his feet, and he recognized him as his guru. And after a very wonderful interchange, Sri Yukteswar said, I want you to go back to Calcutta and go to school. Go back with your family and continue your education. And Master didn't want to do it. He didn't want to go home. He had run away to Benares or left his home to Benares, lived in a hermitage there. It was not working out so well for him. But he didn't want to go home. He had promised to himself he wouldn't go. And so there was a struggle of wills there. Sri Yukteswar was saying to him, no, you're going to go home. Never. Master said, never. Can you imagine? There must have been sparks flying at that conversation, huh? And Master wrote this afterwards. He was walking back to the hermitage where he wasn't very happy. The Master said, the controversial tension unrelieved, I bowed reverently at his feet and departed. Walking in the midnight darkness toward the hermitage, I wondered why the miraculous meeting had ended on an inharmonious note. The dual scales of Maya that balance every joy with a grief. My young heart was not yet malleable to the transforming fingers of my guru. Why did this happen? Master didn't know. He was a young disciple. He had thwarted his guru's wishes, not realizing that Sri Yukteswar knew exactly what he needed to do. And he felt this hollowness, this barrenness inside. He was experiencing such joy. And then all of a sudden there was a sense of sadness. This is what the joyful experiences give to us in the world. We become joyful for a while, and then we have to have some sort of sadness to balance it out. But the last sentence there, our guru says, my heart was not yet malleable to the transforming fingers of my guru. When you find a guru, when you follow a guru, then you don't have the ups and downs of these things. If Master had said, okay, you told me to go home and visit, I'll do it. He would have left the hermitage that night with a feeling of happiness in his heart. And of course, we're talking about these expressions or feelings of joy and love just by things that happen around us. There's a much more profound way to feel it, and that's through yoga, through coming close to that feeling of joy and love, that expression of God within us. Rajarsi Janakananda, he was the first president after our Master's passing, and those who have been on the path know something of him. He didn't speak much, he didn't write much. We have a few tapes of him, and he's somewhat unknown, but he was a great, great yogi, when Master met him in 1932 in Kansas City, Master was thrilled. He realized he had met the most profound yogi here in the West. Master was thrilled. He wrote a letter to the ashram residents at SRF here at the headquarters. Master, in 1932, he wrote, lecture campaign work at Kansas City and meeting some of the most spiritual Yogoda students there has been is one of the greatest happinesses of my life. Rajarsi's receptivity was such that on the first meeting in January 1932, Guruji was able to transmit to him the samadhi experience. And in the lecture in 1933, Master said, a wealthy Kansas City man, the first day we met, touched Christ consciousness. His soul was ripe. When he received the Kriya technique, he said to me, life boils within my spine. This is the technique I have been seeking. I have found God. He meditated 6 hours with me the first day I met him. This was a great soul. This was a great soul. Listen to what he says about the joy that he feels and experiences. Now, of course, we've talked so far about this worldly joy that we can experience and we can touch from time to time. Rajarsi said, The love of God is the only reality. We must realize this love of God, so great, so joyful. I could not even begin to tell you how great it is. People in the world think, I do this, I enjoy that. Yet whatever they are doing and enjoying inevitably comes to an end. But the love and joy of God that I feel is without any end. One can never forget it once he has tasted it. It is so great he can never want anything else to take its place. What we all really want is the love of God, and you will have it when you attain deeper realization. That's really the purpose of life. That's the successful finding or realizing the purpose of life that he describes there. That joy that has no beginning, no end. It's beyond description. It's just with you throughout your life. This is Master's message. This is what he brought. He didn't bring just little wonderful anecdotes and inspirational little tidbits to help us try to feel joy in our daily lives. He brought us the method, the science behind finding God. You know, we're coming up to 1920 to 2020, 100 years next year. It's interesting to read again that beautiful treatise that Master wrote or gave in The Science of Religion. It was his first talk there in Boston. He was invited to this Congress of Religious Liberals, and you can see a picture of them. I always enjoy the picture where they show all of these very stern-looking men, big beards, and they're very important, and then in the master's in the middle, and he's just beaming, just emanating a joy. The Science of Religion, saying that there is a way that you can take the principles, the laws, the hidden truths that God has put into creation. There's a way that you can use them, and you can find this hidden love and joy within. Master says, yoga teaches us how to rise above the delusion of separation and realize our oneness with God. The world's various religions are based more or less on the beliefs of man, but the true basis of religion should be a science that all devotees may apply in order to reach our one Father God. Yoga is that science. The practice of a science of religion is imperative. You know, we come to a place where we start realizing that love and joy are not just byproducts of life, dependent on right circumstances and conditions to manifest. Yoga shows us how to bring forth these qualities from within. And this is what our Guru gave us. You know, we had such great examples of people who manifested this love and joy. In my early years in SRF, and sometimes I'm asked, well, why do the monks always talk about, or the monastics always talk about these different personalities that they met? These were the disciples that Guruji brought with him to establish this work. And one of the great privileges all of us feel is that we saw them, we interacted with them, we had personal times when we were able to talk with them, ask them questions. You know, Master gives us this tremendous teaching. In these great disciples, you find those who put those teachings into practice. They show you how to put them into practice. And so when I look back on my years and the great souls that it was a privilege to know in SRF, I just feel so humbled, really. One of them was Brother Bhaktananda, this simple soul from Hollywood. He was at the Hollywood Temple for many, many years. A man who was not an intellectual giant. He was not he was just a simple person who lived what he spoke about. And the holiness from him just kind of emanated. I lived in Hollywood for a couple of years, you know, back in 2000, 2003. So like 3 years I was there. And in the ashram, There was about 5 or 6 monks at the time, and we always met in the morning for energization exercises and our group meditation. And I remember mornings when Brother Bhaktananda would come out of his room, and he would just be emanating. he would be radiant. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I would look at him and say, is this normal? He just looked like he had light flowing from inside of him. And I thought, okay, he must have spent his night meditating. He had this holiness about him. And of course, his great way of finding that attunement, finding that love and joy, was through the practice of the presence of God. It's keeping his thoughts, keeping his heart and mind centered in the thought of God. This is what he wrote, or this is what he said in one of his talks. He said, I kept on chanting Om Guru from the heart, while at times visualizing Master in the spiritual eye. For 4 years I chanted this way, with wonderful, unbroken love and joy. Because of my attunement with Master, there was always his guidance in my life and work. One time during my busy schedule, I forgot to practice the divine presence for a couple of days. The bliss began to gradually leave, and I began to feel like an empty barrel. That's how Brother Bhaktananda. No longer experiencing the love and joy of God, I felt life was dull and barren. Until then, I had not realized that whether I practiced the presence of God, it would make such a difference. I decided to make chanting the most important practice in my life. For 2 years, I kept on chanting Om Divine Mother, except for meditation and sleep. One would think that a continuous chanting would become monotonous or boring, but I found that as long as I was chanting with devotion, I would feel the love and joy of God. I felt uplifted and energized even when I worked until midnight. That was Brother Bhaktananda. That was what he always had going on. And it showed. It showed in his life. It showed in interactions with him. It showed in what he said. It showed when he was clearly channeling Master when he made some statement to one of us. He had that attunement. From time to time, he would make little statements. He'd be giving a talk or a class at Hollywood. And I always kept a notebook in my pocket because every once in a while, Brother would say something you hadn't heard before or you hadn't heard expressed that way. And there's a couple of them that I remembered here. He was talking about practicing the presence, and he said, every once in a while, you have to kneel into it. Now, what he meant by that was you have to avoid practicing the presence just becoming mechanical, where there's no feel. Every once in a while, you have to kneel into it. Every once in a while, you really have to put your attention, your thoughts, your feeling, your love into whatever it is you're chanting. That's how you keep it deep. That's how it becomes something that transforms your life. Another time, he said, he was talking about the spiritual path. He was talking about attaining what we all want to attain. And he said, it's like anything else. Sooner or later, you break through. It was so profound, so simple yet so profound. It's like anything else. Sooner or later, you break through. In other words, you make an effort on the spiritual path. And usually when you least expect it, when you're not even looking for it, something happens and you break through. It's like anything else. You know, we can learn anything in the world, and that's what happens. You learn something, you practice, you take lessons in whatever it is that you're interested in. You keep, if you're diligent with it, you stay. All of a sudden, you get to a place where something changes. You break through. So it is with yoga. So it is with the practice. This week, we have a great opportunity here at Convocation because we're concentrating again on the foundation stones of what our teachings are. That is the techniques, that is meditation. And with an opportunity like that, we keep making these efforts year after year. Many times we have devotees coming back year after year. And all of them, I think if they look at their lives, they can say, yes, I can see that there has been steady progress. One time I asked Daya Mata, I was her secretary for some time, and I was a young monk at the time, but I had seen a picture book of Padre Pio, who was he was an Italian saint. I think he passed away some years back. But it was a book about him, and it had pictures of him in there. And one of the pictures showed him standing in front of a camera. And the story was that his superior had ordered him to take a picture, this photographer to take a picture of him and to show his stigmata wounds. He was like Therese Neumann. He had the stigmata, the wounds of Jesus. And this picture was very revealing because it was a young man with a beard. He was dressed as a monk, and he had his hands like this in front of him, and you could just read the expression on his face. I really don't want to be doing this. And probably the subtext was, Lord, why are you making me do this? But the picture was so incredible because you looked at it and you just had an awe for the sanctity of this man. You could just see it in the way his expression, in his eyes, in his demeanor. And one time with Daya Mata, I told her about the picture, and I asked her, how did he become so holy, Ma? And the nice thing, Daya Mata was always, whenever you asked her a spiritual question, you could see that it was something important to her. It was not something that she would brush off. She had work to do. But when a question was asked, she would become silent, and she would think about it, and then she would give some profound answer back. And with this question to her about Padre Pio, she said, he practiced the presence, he practiced devotion. He didn't spend all of his time with others. He spent a lot of his time alone. And I thought, wow, yeah, that's it. That's how these saints become saints in the past. They're unusual. There's a lot of people who practice the presence. There's a lot of people who practice devotion. There's a lot of people who spend time by themselves, and they don't thereby become saints. But these souls have worked at it in the past, and in the right circumstances, in the right conditions, they manifest this holiness, this sanctity. Master talks about this in Autobiography of a Yogi. He talks about Brother Lawrence. This was the original practicing the present saint. We had Brother Bhaktananda. Brother Lawrence was before him. And Master said, Brother Lawrence, a 17th century Christian mystic, tells us his first glimpse of self-realization, of God realization, came about by viewing a tree. Master says, nearly all human beings have seen a tree. Few, alas, have thereby seen the tree's creator. Most people are utterly incapable of summoning those irresistible powers of devotion that are effortlessly possessed by a few single-hearted saints of all religious paths. We don't have the capacity. We're utterly incapable of expressing that devotion that pulls God's response, that pulls that self-realization from us. But what he says next is so important. He said, yet the ordinary person is not therefore shut out from the possibility of divine communion. They need for soul recollection no more than the Kriya yoga technique, an observance of the moral precepts, and an ability to cry sincerely, Lord, I yearn to know thee. In this statement, Master is saying that this idea that you have saints who have the ability to tune in with the divine, and you have others who are incapable of that, and never the twain shall meet. Master brought yoga, Master brought Kriya yoga, and this path, so that that bridge can be made, that we can feel that divine presence within, that love and joy in this crazy world that we live in. Master says, by the practice of Kriya, consciousness and energy again become centralized in the spine. The yogi feels there's a boundless, ever-new joy, proof of the presence within him of the divine. Centralizing that energy in the spine. He also said, if you receive these teachings and practice them, you will realize every truth I have told you. It is not complicated. I have given only those spiritual techniques that will enable you to perceive and commune with God. No matter how unpleasant your circumstances in this world, when you discover God, you will see him working through you and manifesting in everything, and you will be filled with his love and joy. This is what we're seeking. This is what we all want. This is what will give us the happiness and the joy that is never ending. It's always with us, as Rajarsi says. So this week I would encourage all of you, make an effort. Make the effort to, as Brother Chidananda was saying, use this as a spiritual retreat, as much as you're able. Take the time to make that connection with the divine, and you'll go away a different person, guaranteed. It's a wonderful, wonderful event that our Guru started. And this year kind of represents a quantum leap in the number of people who can participate. And lastly, I think whenever we talk about a subject like this, it's certainly the efforts we make in yoga, certainly the practicing the presence, doing these things that bring the consciousness of God to us or with us. But we always have this aspect that we can go to the Guru and we can ask for his help. There's the story in the autobiography of Swami Paramahansa, the one with the saint with two bodies. And he was meditating, half the night, still keeping up with his work, his daily work. He was going as deep as he could, but he couldn't get past, he couldn't find full realization of God's presence. Let me read this section of the. He said, I used to meditate with another disciple for 8 hours every night. We had to work in the railway office during the day. Finding difficulty in carrying on my clerical duties, I desired to devote my whole time to God. For 8 years I persevered, meditating half the night. I had wonderful results, tremendous spiritual perceptions illumined my mind, but a little veil always remained between me and the infinite. Even with superhuman earnestness, I found the final irrevocable union to be denied me. One evening I paid a visit to Lahiri Mahashaya and pleaded for his divine intercession. My importunities continued during the entire night. Angelic Guru, my spiritual anguish is such that I can no longer bear my life without meeting the great beloved face to face. And then I love Lahiri Mahashaya's answer. He says, what can I do? You must meditate more profoundly. Out of my control. But then he appeals to him. He said, I'm appealing to thee, O God, my master. I see thee materialize before me. Lahiri Mahashaya extended his hand in a benign gesture. You may go now and meditate. I have interceded for you. Immeasurably uplifted, I returned to my home. In meditation that night, the burning goal of my life was achieved. It's a lesson. It's a lesson for all devotees. It's not some advanced disciple and how he interacted with his avatar guru. It's written there for all of us. When we go to our Guru and our prayer is, reveal thyself, or even if it's, help me to feel a little more devotion, help me to make a little more effort, help me to experience something of your presence in my life. The Guru has to step in. This is often a neglected part of our search for God, really looking to the Guru and holding on to his hand and having him guide and direct. Master goes out of his way to help disciples who are sincere and who are in need of his help. I will come whenever you need me, said Babaji to Lahiri Mahashaya. That's the promise a guru makes to his disciple. In this This little booklet that we have is Visiting the Saints of India with Sri Daya Mata, written by Mrilini Mata, some reminiscences of her traveling in India with Daya Mata. She concludes that little talk, that little essay, with just a beautiful tribute to our Guru. I've heard Daya Mata say this. One time she was talking about the saints she's met in this life, and she met many of them. But she said, but for all of them, and you can't compare them. You can't. Everyone has a different mission. But she was so she looked to our Guru as a unique incarnation, and there was no one who compared. There was no one who compared. This was Mrilini Mata. She said, my trip to India confirmed what I knew already in my heart, what all of us who were around Gurudeva Paramahansa Yogananda and have gone to India will say. You can go all over the land, all over the world, and you can meet those who are considered to be the very greatest among Divine Mother's devotees. But truly, you do not have to go one step, for our own Master brought to us the best that India has to offer, and in him you find the very highest of any incarnation that has walked this earth. Sometimes devotees say, well, who impressed you the most? Or what was this or that one like in comparison with Master? As Master himself said, it is not right, it is not even possible to compare saints. With the limited instrument of the human mind, one simply cannot measure the infinity of a saint's being. But this I can say from my own experience. It took a Yogananda, it took one of the very highest in stature, with an all-rounded nature and personality such as his, to be able to come to the West, to found for the world a work such as he started, bringing the very essence of the highest and purest teachings of India, and have the West accept him. Among the saints of India, some manifest a predominance of bhakti, in others jnana or wisdom may predominate. Others emphasize karma yoga, the path of right action, and some just roam where they feel drawn, singing the name of God. But seeing these other divine ones, we appreciated all the more how all of those qualities were blended in our own Divine Master. Guruji was the perfect incarnation of love. His approach to God was through bhakti, devotion, or prem, divine love. At the same time, he was a perfect karma yogi. From early morning until long after most in the world had gone to rest, he was busily active for God. As for wisdom, there has not been a saint in India today or for generations. And we have had people all over India tell us this, who has explained the depth of the scriptures as Master has. His explanations are so lucid, so simple, and his guidance is so practical. That takes real divine wisdom. The world is just crying for what Master has to give. We have the tremendous good karma to have been drawn to this path, to these teachings, to this Guru at this particular time in the world. Use it. Use it this week to build a deeper relationship. Use it to ask for help, for guidance. That you leave this convocation a different person with a stronger realization that the Guru is not just someone with teachings, not just someone that we see in a picture, but someone who is enshrined in our heart, who's guiding us and helping us on the path. So I wish the best for all of you this week, as do all of the monastics. And we're just looking forward to watching you all as the week goes on, because we've seen it many years. People come in a little beat up from the travel, a little bit worn out, and then by the end of the week, everyone's floating around in the room. So may God and Guru bless each one of us on this sacred endeavor that we've started and we're in the midst of. God bless you all.